I've been living with my grandmother since the accident. The doctor said the scar across my temple would fade with time, but the memories haven't. 6 months ago, I was driving home from a late shift when a truck veered into my lane. They tell me I was lucky. The other driver wasn't. Grandma's house sits at the edge of Millwood, where the forest presses close against civilization. It's a Victorian relic with warped floorboards that creak under the slightest weight and windows that rattle when the wind blows from the east. The locals call it the Widow's Watch, though Grandma has been alone for 30 years now. "You'll heal faster here," she told me when I arrived, my arm still in a sling, nightmares still fresh. "The air is cleaner." I didn't argue. My apartment in the city held too many reminders: the half-finished graduate thesis I'd abandoned, the photos of friends who stopped calling after I withdrew into myself. Here, at least, the silence feels earned. It was on the third night that I first noticed the chains. I'd woken suddenly, the phantom sensation of impact still reverberating through my body. The digital clock on the nightstand read 3:17 a.m. The room was cold unnaturally so for June, and, in the corner, partially obscured by the antique dresser, something glinted in the moonlight. A single link of tarnished silver chain lay on the hardwood floor. I blinked, certain it was a trick of light or medication. But when I forced myself from bed and approached, it was solid beneath my fingertips. Cold, heavy, with intricate engravings, too fine to make out in the darkness. I placed it on the nightstand and returned to bed, attributing it to Grandma's collection of oddities. By morning, it was gone. "Did you come into my room last night?" I asked over breakfast. Grandma looked up from her crossword, pencil poised midair. "Of course not, Eliza. I respect your privacy. I found something strange, a chain link. Must have fallen from one of the curtain tiebacks," she said, returning to her puzzle. "This house is always shedding pieces of itself." I nodded, though I knew the curtains in my room had fabric ties, not chains. That afternoon, while Grandma napped, I searched the house for anything that might explain the chain link. In the attic, among dusty trunks and forgotten furniture, I found a small wooden box with brass hinges. Inside lay a collection of old photographs, sepia-toned portraits of stern-faced ancestors, but beneath them was something else, a daguerreotype of a woman unlike the others. She was beautiful in a way that made my skin prickle. Her features were perfect, too perfect, like a doll's with eyes that seemed to pierce through the photographic process itself. Her smile revealed teeth that appeared almost translucent, and around her throat was a delicate chain, matching the link I'd found. I flipped the image over. In faded ink, someone had written, "Eleanor, 1897. May God preserve us." Find anything interesting? I startled at Grandma's voice behind me, nearly dropping the photograph. "Who is this?" I asked, holding up the daguerreotype. Grandma's expression changed so subtly, I almost missed it. A tightening around the eyes, a slight pallor to her already pale cheeks. "No one of consequence," she said, taking the box from me. "Just family history best left undisturbed." That night, I dreamed of Eleanor. She stood at the foot of my bed, her form shifting like smoke in still air. The chain around her neck had multiplied, links now cascading down her shoulders, wrapping her arms, trailing along the floor toward me. Her smile widened beyond what human anatomy should allow. "You've carried something back with you," she whispered, her voice like glass breaking in slow motion. From the other side of the veil, I woke gasping, my body drenched in sweat despite the room's chill. On the floor lay 3 chain links, arranged in a perfect triangle. Over the next week, the manifestations intensified. I'd find chain links in my shoes, floating in my tea, or pressed between the pages of books I was reading. When I showed them to Grandma, she couldn't see them. Her fingers passed through them as if they were made of air. "You've been through trauma, Eliza," she said gently. "The mind creates ways to process what it can't accept." But these weren't hallucinations. The links left rust stains on my clothes and tiny scratches on my skin. And Eleanor was becoming more than a dream. I'd catch glimpses of her in reflective surfaces, the bathroom mirror, the darkened television screen, the window during rainstorms. Always smiling, always watching. "What do you want?" I finally asked aloud one night, standing alone in my bedroom with a handful of chain links. "Completion," came the whispered reply, though no one was there. The next morning, I drove into town and visited the local historical society. The elderly volunteer seemed delighted by my interest in Eleanor. The Blackwood Bride, she called her, pulling out a leather-bound volume. Quite the tragedy. She was engaged to the wealthiest man in the county, but disappeared 3 days before her wedding. They found her wedding dress by the river, but never her body. Some say she still wanders the forests, looking for someone to take her place. Was she wearing a chain necklace in accounts of her disappearance? I asked. The woman looked surprised. Why, yes, a family heirloom. Silver with unusual markings. How did you know? I didn't answer. That night, Eleanor appeared fully formed at the foot of my bed. No longer translucent or dreamlike, she stood as solid as any living person, though the shadows behind her seemed to move independently, coiling and uncoiling like serpents. The chains around her body clinked softly as she approached. "You should have died in that accident," she said, her voice now clear as a bell. "But something kept you tethered to life. Something that belongs to me." "I don't understand," I whispered, pressing myself against the headboard. "The veil between worlds is thin for those who've touched death." She reached out, her fingers hovering above the scar on my temple. "You crossed over briefly and took something back. I need it returned." I felt a pressure in my chest, as if something was trying to pull free. My breath caught, lungs refusing to expand. The room darkened at the edges. Eleanor Blackwood. Grandma stood in the doorway, her small frame somehow filling the space. In her hands, she held a tarnished silver locket. Eleanor hissed, the sound like steam escaping a valve. "This doesn't concern you, old woman." "You've haunted my family for generations," Grandma said, her voice steady. "Taking those who've glimpsed the other side. But not her. Not my granddaughter." She opened the locket, revealing a curl of dark hair inside. Eleanor screamed a sound that made the windows rattle and my ears ring. The chains around her began to tighten, pulling her form inward. "The hair from your grave," Grandma explained. "Your true anchor to this world." Eleanor lunged forward, but the chains restrained her, shortening with each movement. Her beautiful face contorted with rage, the smile now a rictus of fury. "She's marked. She'll always be marked." "Perhaps," Grandma acknowledged, "but she'll be alive." She snapped the locket shut. Eleanor imploded into darkness, the chains collapsing inward, until nothing remained but a single link on the floor, which Grandma quickly scooped up and placed inside the locket. The pressure in my chest released. I gasped, drawing in air that no longer felt frigid. "You knew," I accused between breaths. "You knew all along." Grandma sat heavily on the edge of my bed. "Eleanor has haunted our family since she drowned herself in 1897. She was my great aunt. When someone in our bloodline has a near-death experience, she appears, trying to reclaim what she believes was stolen from her. What did I take? Life," Grandma said simply. "The will to live that she discarded. She's been trying to reclaim it ever since, pulling our family members back across the veil when they've glimpsed what lies beyond." I touched my scar, understanding now why Grandma had insisted I come here after the accident. "The locket will hold her? For now." She looked tired suddenly, the weight of family secrets evident in the slump of her shoulders. "But Eleanor is patient, and you've seen her now. Acknowledged her? That creates a connection that's not easily broken." She pressed the locket into my hand. It was heavier than it looked, thrumming with a subtle energy. "Keep this with you. Always." That was 2 months ago. The chain links no longer appear, and I've had no more dreams of Eleanor. The locket remains cool against my skin day and night. Sometimes I think I hear it whisper, or feel it pulse in time with a heartbeat not my own. Grandma says I'm healing well. The scar has faded to a thin silver line, barely visible unless you know to look for it. I've started writing again, working on my thesis in the sunroom, where light pours in through stained glass panels. But sometimes, when I catch my reflection in an unexpected place, a store window, a puddle after rain, the black screen of my phone before it lights up. I see her standing behind me, just for an instant, smiling that impossible smile. And last night, I woke to find my fingers closed around the locket, its clasp partially undone. I don't remember reaching for it in my sleep. Grandma says Eleanor can never fully return, as long as we keep the locket sealed. But I've noticed how she watches me sometimes, concern etched in the lines around her eyes. I've noticed how she checks my room when she thinks I'm asleep. I've noticed the new chain she's installed on my bedroom door, from the inside.